If we could come to order, please. Who knows? First, I'd like to send the committee's condolences to the family of Francis Powers. He was an advocate for transit, he was an advocate for Staten Island, and I think all of us will miss him very much. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of our new board member, Doreen Frascus, who came aboard this time last month and is going warp speed in getting up to speed. I would also like to acknowledge another board member who's not in the room at present, but we've had the addition of Bob Bigford, who is the Putnam County representative. Now, I understand we have one public speaker.
We have one public speaker, William Henderson from the PCAC.
Bill, wait 1 minute, it's not working.
Unless you want to do this? No.
My name is Bill Henderson. I'm the Executive Director of the Permanent Citizen Advisory Committee to the MTA and New York City Transit Riders Council. I'm here today to support the service changes that are included in the staff summary in today's committee book. You know, there have been a lot of confusion about in the public perception about the different changes to the capital programs, the changes to the service enhancements that were proposed earlier, and despite that confusion about those changes and some things that we don't like about having some things pushed off into the future in terms of capital and in terms of other service enhancements, we've got to be clear that the proposed changes to the subway service that are in the book today are good things. They say that the perfect is the enemy of the good. We don't want that to happen. We want these enhancements to move forward. We realize that there are fiscal constraints. On the other hand, there's increased ridership, and we have to provide for that. We think this is a good start towards providing for the increased ridership, and that when there is fiscal capacity to pursue more improvements, we'd like to see those right now.
Wait a minute.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Yeah. Is that off? Okay. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 22nd meeting? Second? Those in favor? Passes. Are there any changes to the work plan?
No changes.
You know, I'd like to point out that there were two requests made by the board in the prior minutes, one of which was a more detailed explanation of the paratransit no-shows, and the committee members should have received a letter on that. You probably got it today, or maybe it's in your office, so we'll please review that. We can discuss it at the next meeting. And the second request was for greater detail on the elevator report. Mr. Kay, I think you made that request. Have you had a chance to speak with Mr. Roberts? Would you reach out to Mr. Kay, please, and see what suggestions could be made to help that improve?
Yes, I certainly will.
May we have the operations report?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. On the subways, the 12-month on-time performance, weekday 24-hour terminal was 92.2%, down 1.7% from 93.8% last April. AM rush was 90.9, which is down 1.5% from 92.3. And the PM Rush Terminal on-time performance was 90.9, down 2.0% from the 92.8% from last year. System rebuilding delays continue to be the primary cause of delay. In April 2008, the delay caused by track and work gangs, the single leading cause, increased by 97% from last year and accounted for 27% of all delays system-wide. In order to deal with this continued deterioration, we are relooking at how we organize the track work, doing better coordination of both the contractor work and the work that's done by our own in-house forces. We also are have just got started using a system that the City of New York invented called ComStat, which was applied to crime very successfully. We call our system Substat. We have held meetings on the 7 line and the L line. Our first meetings, we'll be holding our second meeting shortly. And I would like to invite any of the committee members who would like to attend one of those sessions to come.
Will you make us aware of the time?
I
Yeah, I was going to attend the last one, and something came up, and I couldn't go, so I'd be very interested.
Yeah. Okay. We're not shooting anybody standing at the podium, at least yet.
Howard, a quick question: Are these delays system-wide? Are they diffused, or are there particular lines that are experiencing greater delays than?
It is a system-wide problem, but each line is unique in terms of its distribution of delays, and it depends on everything from how much work is currently programmed for that line to what condition the signal system is in, what condition the switches are in, and so on and so forth. So in the first 2-on-2 lines, we not only learned a lot about those lines, but we also learned quite a bit about some generic problems, of course, across the system as a whole.
Mr. President, the 7 and the L line are unique in that they're discrete lines. Obviously, all the others share tracks amongst various lines, and I'm not sure. I mean, it's great to get a handle on those, but I think the answer to Commissioner Frosca's question is that the lines that are getting the most GOs are the lines with the greatest delays. I think that's a fair statement. Is that? Would you agree to that?
Yeah, except some of the problems going on, clearly all the problems that have occurred are not attributable, nor have we all ever said they're all attributable to the GOs. And we intend to roll the program out across all 24 lines. It's simply the same reason we instituted the general manager concept on the 7 and the L. It's a more controllable, insulated universe, and so that's why we started there.
Except the general manager came with significantly more money for those lines. Is that correct?
I'm sorry?
The general manager program that you implemented came with significantly more money for those lines to work with. Is that correct?
The only places that we've added service in the last year have been on the 7 line and the L line. Yeah, and that has to do with overcrowding, not with on-time performance.
Could I ask a few questions about this? I'm curious, and I'm looking at the numbers and just sort of the layout, and maybe it's more format than anything, but I guess my question really is, how does this compare over the last few years? What we see is in these charts is a system-wide once a month and then a 12-month average, which essentially goes back 2 years. And I guess I'd be more interested in knowing, I'm looking at a 43% increase in the number of delays in April, not a 26% and a 4%. I think that's a more appropriate number. And then how that is year to date, because I think if I look at the 12-month average, I'm looking at, frankly, over 2 years ago. I think if I got that, or maybe just at 2 years ago. And so how does this compare over the last few years in performance on subways?
Yeah. What we'll be very happy to go back and provide you with that. But essentially, from about 2003, 2004, the on-time performance has tracked fairly steadily downward.
And just following up on various other comments, I would suggest that if you do have the information by line, that in next month's report you can put line by line so we can actually see whether it's one line pulling down the rest or vice versa, or there's a couple lines that are really pulling everyone else down. Because these numbers, as you said, a very significant trend over the last few years, are very disturbing. And especially as we try to go into an area with needs of money and service cuts and service improvements, I'd like to make sure before we do any of that, we try to find a way to turn this around. Because this is the system. This is what people care about. You know, they may want to add more service and do more things, but they want to make sure that the subway is not delayed. They want to make sure that the subway's on time.
Yeah,
And that should be where our resources are devoted.
Yeah, we absolutely can do that. Quite obviously, we build this from individual lines up, and so I get a report every morning that is broken out by line, and so we'll be very happy to provide that.
I'd also like to see if we could change a way on this performance reporting, because the 12-month average just completely dilutes any of the numbers. If there's a way to do year-to-date compared to the others, I think is a lot more appropriate.
Yeah, we can do that, but 12, generally speaking, you have whether it be on-time performance, particularly mean distance between failure, that's very much frequently weather related.
Sure.
Particularly on the bus side.
And that's why I think it would be helpful to do year-to-date, guys, compared to the prior years. If we have the data, that's the data we should be seeing.
Yeah. Okay. We'll be very happy to provide you with any and all data that you would like to have.
And then just one last sort of point on the next few pages, when you look at all of the goals and the on-time performance and everything, all the goals are down. So presumably we've seen that as a problem over the last few years. I find that I'm a little concerned that if our goal is even less than it was the prior year, that we're not striving for even how we did last year. And if we know last year is not good enough, what goes into this goal? I mean, the one thing that we've learned in the city, and one thing I've been moving against and holding all my agencies accountable, is that there should be no goal. That you should always be trying to improve over the prior year. And you set goals. It allows you to set a lower goal than last year. And frankly, when you meet that goal, you say you meet the goal, and that's just not good enough.
Yeah, well, part of that, and there are obviously different views. But on the other hand, if I set a goal for Steve File, if I give him the 2004 goal for on-time performance to meet, I know there is very little opportunity unless we have miracle workers for him to make that goal.
But we should meet last year's performance. That's my only point, is that we should be looked at last year. I understand you don't want to set goals that you can't reach, because that doesn't make any sense. But at least staying to last year's performance, I think, is a goal that we should all be trying to do.
Yeah. Well, Steve's real goal this year is stop the bleeding. Okay. Stop the decline. Yeah. And then we can hopefully start planning upward and set increasing goals as we go along.
Are you finished, Mr. Kay?
Yes.
When
Mark?
you do the delays by, I have a request that follows his, sorry. When you provide the information on delays by line, would you also give us a concept of the number of GOs and the ridership increases? Because I think what Mr. Kay is trying to get to is what is it that's bringing about the delay. So the information that would help us to discern that would be useful.
Okay.
Mr. LeBeau.
The alarming thing about the decline is when you go from 96 to 93% or 92% to 89% in 1 year, that is quite a considerable percentage decline. And it appears from the statistics that most of the causes for the decline are not through acts of God, like earthquakes, hurricanes, equipment failures, or other disasters, but merely senior staff lack of supervision of what goes on underground. And I don't know whether the loss of talent in the subway system, and I'm just speaking about the subways now, is the cause of this, but somebody just has to pay attention to keeping the system running like it has been in the past. At Metro North, Jim Sedor always starts off by saying the Metro North trains ran at 99.9% on time. We've been hearing that now ever since he's been on the board, and he does it for a good reason. Because it's important. That's what the system is there to do. It's to run on time and it's to get people there. And you can put in whatever programs you want, but if you don't have the senior staff to coordinate it properly, I don't know what you're going to do to improve this.
Yeah, well, I don't think I have any problem with senior staff at all, Commissioner LeBeau. And in my considered judgment, that is not the problem. And as I said earlier, we are zeroing in on the problems. We're learning we're focusing more than people have focused in many years before on the causes. But this is not simply undisciplined train operators who are dragging the road deliberately.
Do you need money? Do you need more resources or financial resources to improve this?
No, we do not.
So what exactly do you have to improve it?
What we have is take just the way that the Hong Kong Metro has gotten theirs, which is a full-size metro, above 99%. You need to zero in on every defect, okay, every delay and cause of delay, and do everything within your power that you can to reduce those. Now, one of the interesting things that we found is we report cause of delays, people holding doors, and that sort of thing. And in fact, what we are finding is that we probably should have a category called increased dwell time, as opposed to people holding doors, because it turns out that the conductors are not actually spotting Commissioner LeBeau back there holding a door back, so that Andrew Albert can get on the train.
Holding doors is a very small percentage of all the delays, according to the chart that you said you just gave us.
Right, but in order to improve performance.
Page 17 has all that number.
In order to improve performance, we have to attack every category, and even if it's relatively small,
I don't disagree. Which was my question: is do you need resources to attack any one of these conditions? And if not, I'd be interested in the next meeting to see if we can find out what we're going to do to attack it. I think you're right. No problem is too small, and if we can go at each one of, is that right? Yeah, I think I said that right. If we can go at each one of those, and if you had strategies, I'd be happy to hear it. Because if you need resources, we should talk about that.
Yeah. To just finish that comment, what we're finding out is that heavy loading at a station, increased dwell time, then causes the train to fall behind. And what the crews do is that when they get more than 5 minutes behind, and it's because of increased dwell time, they report that customers are holding doors. That's not based on actual observation, and the problem may be customers holding doors, or it may be just, as it frequently is a lot of stations, a lot of people trying to get on the train and exceeding the dwell time that is programmed for that particular location.
Which, of course, is a symptom of not having enough service to accommodate all the riders, so they try to pile on. But it's also a symptom of because certain trains are late, folks don't really know when the next one is coming, and so they try very hard to pile on the one that they see there, not knowing that there may be another. Everyone hears there's another train right behind. That could mean 10 stations behind. Nobody really knows how far behind. So,
yeah. Well, in the phenomenon, which I'm sure, having served on the board all these years, many of you are familiar with, is that as soon as a train or a bus falls behind schedule, what they find confronting them at the next stop or the next station is the people that normally would be waiting on that interval plus all the people that are actually waiting for the train behind. And so as soon as you start bogging down like that, at every stop you fall further and further behind because you're trying to do the work that your train is supposed to accomplish, plus that of your follower. And, Steve could put 1,000 people, on the platform, and we could send them down there with bullwhips, and that really wouldn't speed up the trains. Actually, Commissioner LeBeau, Commissioner LeBeau at an earlier meeting pointed out that a lot of this problem probably was schedule, and I must say, after sitting through my first two substats, that I think I'm beginning to share his view.
I'm in favor of bullwhips only in Rockland County, however.
Well, I guess that leaves us out. Mean distance between failure, the 12-month average MDBF is 146,253 miles, also down 4.5% from 153,000 miles a year ago. The oldest B division car classes, which are currently being retired as new R160 cars are delivered, continue to bring the mean distance between failure average down. Looking at this also, decisions made about the SMS program, what components to replace in the last overhaul or budget constrained, and it's very clear that in a number of cases on the older car classes, we considered whether to replace things like compressors, rebuild door assemblies, and that sort of thing. For budget reasons, we decided not to do that, and we are now paying the price for the failure to make that additional investment.
Howard, because it's clear from the MDBF figures on this page that it's not necessarily the oldest cars with the lowest MDBF, and that's been fairly consistent. When you get the new 160s, are you retiring cars with the lower MDBF, the most problematic cars, or are you doing it strictly by age?
We are at a point now where we try to do that, Andrew.
That which?
But we pick the winners and retire the lemons. Uh-huh. But we are getting at the point now that a lot of the cars are over 40 years old. The trucks are cracked or have cracks in them. The bodies have cracks in them. That is a safety concern. The catastrophic failure of a truck in passenger service would be a very bad thing, and it would take us back to the early 80s. And unlike the mechanical components, we have very limited capability to understand exactly, what condition those are. So our policy is shifting to one that is the oldest by age are the ones that we are going to put on the reef as quickly as we can. Buses performance overall continue to be strong in April. AM weekday pullout performance was 99.91 and PM was 99.96. The 12-month average indicators were 99.64 for AM and 99.78 for PM. Completed trips averaged 98.9% in April and 98.44% during the last 12 months. The mean distance between failure 12-month average was 4,006 miles, a decrease of 2.5% from 4,107 a year ago. Performance also decreased for the month of April by 7.1% from 4,501 miles last year to 4,183 miles this year. While this report is for April, we got punished very, very badly in May because of the heat wave, and we'll shortly be distributing a report to show you how the three bus systems performed during those very, very hot days. Paratransit trips requested, scheduled, and completed showed increases ranging from 24% to 26% in April 2008 compared to a year ago. On a 12-month average basis, all three indicators are up between 16 and 17% from a year ago. Customer no-shows in April increased by 24.9% from last year.
That's a number. I'm looking forward to, I guess, the information that was sent today on the paratransit. Just sort of an observation and maybe a recommendation. One of the things that we consistently ask the questions on is no-shows and cancellations, and the increase in number of riders tends to be the answer. What would be helpful is to show, in my opinion, a true picture, which may be correct, that the numbers don't look that way, is to just show a percentage of the no-shows per percentage of requests, because that will allow us to get a better look, really. It's just a better look at the indicator, which makes sense. Because if I look at this, I'm seeing very high numbers, 25%, 26%, 11%, 18%, and I assume a big chunk of that is because you have increased number of riders and people calling. And it really distracts us from the truth, where we should be focusing not on that number, but it might be 10% instead of 25%, which is a problem, but at least we have a better look at it. I think we're missing an indicator here, which just puts the numerator and the denominator to even all that out.
Yeah, we'd be very happy to provide that.
I might be unduly alarmed.
Crime, there were 193 felonies in May this year, down by 10 or 4.9% from a year ago, and robberies decreased by 1 or 1.5% in May. Safety, the accident statistics continue to show long-term improvement. The 12-month subway customer accident rate was 3.16 per million in March 2008, down 3.5% compared to a year ago. The 12-month bus customer accident rate was 0.94 per million in March 2008, down 5.1% from last year. The 12-month average employee lost time accident rate was 2.36 per 100 employees in April 2008, down 10.3% compared to a year ago. Subway fires actually increased. The 12-month total from 1,340 occurrences as of April 2007 to 1,399 through April 2008. However, results for the month of April show a 10.6% reduction in the number of fires from last year. In addition, all fires during April were classified as lower average severity. On the financial side, preliminary financial results show that Fairbanks revenue in April was $254 million, which was 1% above budget. Year-to-date, Fairbanks revenue is $4.9 million, which is 0.5% over budget. The average non-student fare in April was $1.333. In constant 1996 dollars, the average April 2008 fare was 95 cents. Subway ridership continues to decline. Average weekday ridership in April was up 6.5% from 2007, and average weekend ridership was up 5.3% from last year. Bus ridership remains essentially flat. However, the 12-month average weekend ridership on local buses shows an increase of 1.1% from a year ago. It's not reported in your statistics, but in May, my advanced figures for May shows the first increase year over year in express bus ridership in about 5 years. So I'm encouraged by that.
And actually, local bus ridership is better this month than the report we got last month. So even that's sort of bottomed out and starting to rise, it looks like.
Yeah. Capital program year-to-date through April, Transit has committed $587 million to awards and design starts. The commitment level represents 59% of the year-to-date plan. And I think at this point I'm supposed to say, although it seems to have disappeared from my script, that completes my operations report.
On the financials, we talked about fare box revenue, but we didn't look at the expenses. And I'm looking at the expense report, and help me out here. We're 4 months in, so this includes January, February, March, and April. And it shows that our deficit, or projected deficit, we're already $27 million below where we should be. Is that a result of timing? What's driving that? Because that's a pretty high number for just 4 months in, and we sort of missed that in the performance report.
Yeah, part of that is overtime. We had some unusual overtime expenditures at the beginning of the year. We have clamped down very tightly on that, and expect to recover.
We will recover from the $27 million?
Yep.
So what actions have you done to actually save $27 million over the next 8 months?
And it would essentially getting everybody in and going over budgets in detail, emphasizing the necessity to take whatever action is necessary in order to make our expense numbers.
And what actions is that?
Well, it is, we're doing, Joe's doing a lot on the bus side in terms of material. He's salvaging a tremendous number of parts that otherwise normally would have been junked when the buses were junked. We're making savings there. We're looking at the usage of maintenance material, very closely controlling that usage. Trying to fill vacancies so that we don't have to build additional overtime into the schedule.
Okay, it's a high number, so I look forward to that.
Good morning. Hi, Howard. How are you doing on filling the vacancies in your repair and service area? And how many do you have open approximately, give or take?
Yeah. Michael, do you have head count?
I don't have data in front of me, but in general, we're doing very well. Actually, there are a number. There's a small number of titles where we're behind in filling positions. The biggest one of those is train operators in subways. But generally, on the maintenance side, we're very close to budget.
It looks like, at least what's at least in our report, what we're provided, the total heads is you're only short 61. Am I reading that correct?
You probably are reading it correctly.
So that would generate $27 million of overtime?
No, there were other reasons besides the vacancy shortages in terms of weather and emergencies and track problems and that sort of thing. But for example, on the bus operator side now, we will be in fantastic shape in one sense, because if we do not go forward with the service enhancement program, we had been hiring bus operators so that we would have enough to put that in. So we'll be able to cover, because of the excess bus operators, we'll be able to cover a lot of requirements that otherwise normally would have been done on overtime with straight time.
I think in diesel fuel alone, I believe we're $17 million over budget, or $7 million over.
The fuel overrun essentially accounts for our entire overrun other than labor.
So how much was that?
It's about $9 million.
$9 million?
$9 to $10 million in fuel overruns through April. And the actual non-labor overrun is slightly less than that. So other than fuel, we're doing a little under budget.
But fuel is driving almost $10 million.
Yes. That's correct. With regard to the overtime, I might refer you to a paragraph on page 41 that goes into the various causes of the overtime overrun. That's a paragraph in the middle of the page that starts with labor. So it's not just vacancies.
Additional questions?
Not right now, thanks.
Does anyone else have questions on the operating report? Then we'll move into procurements.
The procurement agenda this month includes 37 actions in the book, totaling $71.9 million in expenditures. I ask for your approval of these actions.
May I have a motion to bring this to the board? Second? Yes. Thank you. Questions?
The procurement concerning the Canarsie line upgrade, that's to bring the information that we're getting from the CBTC to screens. Is that basically what that's about?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Is that every station? I take it is.
All 24
All
stations.
24. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Oh, one last thing. I'm sorry. Connie, this is, I mean, I've always said, and it's probably not in the budget now, but this becomes 1,000% more useful to riders if there is a repeater screen at the entrance to the stations telling people how long it is to the next train. That's not part of this, I take it.
It's not in this AWO action here, but I can check and see. I'm not sure. I know we've had that. I'm not sure if it's in the in the plan
Getting the
at this
information
point.
before you go up the stairs or down the stairs is really vital.
I know. Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Kay?
Just on process, I'm sure I've got this right. On all the competitive requests, I guess B1 through 5, since those will all come back to us in order to register the contract, correct?
Correct.
And when we register that contract, we'll be able to see what the if there's funding available for it.
Here, hang on.
Are these all capital
Yes.
expenditures, or I'm a bit confused? They seem very open-ended. I think that's because it's not the contract, but
No, some of them, I think, are operating expenditures when the time comes. For example, the first one.
I guess B through 5, 1 through 5, these will all come back to us, right?
Yes.
These are a request for an RFP, which means when the contract is let, it's back before us again.
Thanks.
I'd like to comment on B1, which is an RFP for building electrical and plumbing supplies. These are essentially commodities, and it would seem to go against our policy of trying to break up contracts so that our minority businesses have an option. However, I've been assured that when this contract actually comes in, there will be minority and DBA requirements in that contract so that we are, in fact, not eliminating the potential for such subcontracting.
What's a WAR certificate?
A WAR certificate stands for willingness to assume risk. It's essentially a confirmation from the MTA that funding is in place for a capital expenditure.
So what this says is that we're approving contracts. This one is over $15 million, but there's no money available, and we'll hope. I'm not sure I understand that.
I'm not sure which one you're talking
I guess
about.
I circled it in my reading over the weekend. On 102, page 102, staff summary for the asbestos removal. I've seen this a few times throughout. I never quite asked what it was until realizing that, we should make sure when we do these procurements there's money available. And here it's saying there actually is no funding available for this, but that we're hoping eventually it will be available.
These are indefinite quantity contracts. We are putting contractors in place, but then as a project comes along that needs asbestos removal, the money from that project
So you won't expend it until you're using it.
Well, and also it's applied for a particular project. So, for example, we've done work, say we're out doing a station, we uncover some asbestos, we take money from that station project,
Right.
bring in the asbestos contractor through here and give them the money.
And what happens if there's no project available?
Well,
What if you did
Cheryl
20 million,
actually,
you only had
and
10 million to
safety,
fund?
those then fall under Cheryl.
That would be different contracts. That would be different contracts. They're smaller in nature. If we uncover something, then
I guess I was more question is if you enter into a contract for $15 or $20 million and you don't have that much need for expenses, are we on the hook?
No,
So you spend it as you use it. It's just a
Right.
larger contract.
right.
Thank
All
you.
of these contracts are task order based.
Okay.
So we issue a task order when there's a particular problem, and it's always related
the
to some
ceiling.
project.
It's a ceiling.
That's
We
right.
won't-
Exactly.
There's no risk involved from New York City Transit if you don't need to use it.
Right.
Thank you.
Any additional comments? Those in favor? Any opposition? Let's ask it that way. Then we'll move this to the full board.
Action items, this month we're presenting 2 action items for board approval. They are a staff summary to increase the maximum fine for fare evasion in violation of NYCT Transit's rules of conduct from $60 to $100. This change is being requested in concert with the introduction of off-board fare collection this coming Sunday, June 29th, on the new Bronx 12 Select Bus Service. New York City's Transit and New York City Department of Transportation's first bus rapid transit route.
Discussion?
What is the efficacy of this fine system? How easy is it to collect when you get an evader?
This summons will come under our Transit Adjudication Bureau, and Marty might want to speak to our general experience in terms of those summonses.
Yep. In general terms, historically, the payment rate the first year is about 60%. The ultimate payment rate is about 92%.
Additional questions?
This payment system will be a first for New York City Transit. Do we know how other systems do, Marty, in collection? Do we know how often the random inspections will be?
Well, that's not a question for Marty. That's a question for us. Yeah, this is not obviously the first time we've used transit tab summons. It is the first time that we've enforced off-board fare collection, and the answer is very obviously when we first start this up, we want to be fairly intensive in terms of the inspection and try to set an example that then people will know. That they are, in fact, it's going to be checked as to whether they have the thing or not. As I mentioned, this is something New Jersey Transit has been doing ever since the Hudson Bergen Light Rail line came into being, and they also do it on the South Jersey line, which runs from Trenton down to Camden. Yeah.
And there's no intention to raise the fine for vandalism above the $100?
We are actually looking at the original schedule of fines. I'm not sure that's using the right word to describe them, but was set in the 90s when the system was first set up, and we're looking across the board at how we should revise them within the board's authority. And then we're also looking at possible legislation to expand the upward limit up as well, because it's been almost 15 years since a lot of these were set.
And anyone who litters gets to take a pet rat home with them.
I'm not sure that.
The second one?
Yeah, and the second one is the staff summary to request approval of the final environmental impact statement and associated finding statement, and to accept the preferred alternative for the construction of a new ventilation plant on the 8th Avenue subway line between the West 4th and 14th Street stations.
Questions on that? Please note that I recuse on the second item.
Okay.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you.
I'm sorry, but I think we need separate votes, just to, I don't know that we voted on the first one.
Okay, we'll do, for the first action item pertaining to the fines. Those in favor?
Aye.
For the second action item, with those in favor?
Aye.
Recuse. Thank you.
On service changes this month, we're informing the committee of upcoming service changes for both subway and bus. Subway service changes, which will take effect starting in July, will increase service on several subway lines. The proposed changes include additional scheduled service on the 1, 3, 4, 6, 7, and W lines and the 42nd Street shuttle. In addition, we will be extending the hours of service on the 3, the B, the M, and the W lines. These changes are made in response to significant ridership growth and to ensure that service operates consistent with the board-approved service guidelines. This is policy guideline service, and we have policy guidelines on both the bus side and the subway side, and it says when ridership and crowding gets above a certain level, certain automatic increases kick into effect. These policy guidelines are all board approved and in effect allow the agency to make automatic changes as long as they are below a certain upset level. If we had to double service on the line, for example, that would require us to come back and obtain board approval. For reasons that are somewhat complicated, those policy guidelines have been fairly consistently applied over the last 4 or 5 years on the bus side. They were not applied on the subway side. And therefore, essentially, what we were doing was crowding. We had a 10% ridership growth in those 5 years, and so we were basically crowding more and more people into the existing service. When we proposed these as part of the current year budget, they were put in the service enhancement package, and that basically was a mistake. Most of the rest of the service in that package was bus service, and it consisted of new routes being established or significant extensions of existing routes. When it became clear or seemed that we were not going to be able to do the whole service enhancement package, I came to the CEO and the MTA staff and said that because of the crowding issues, it was absolutely, in my judgment, essential that we put this service out to accommodate what is, even after a fare increase, as you saw from my earlier report, our ridership is continuing to increase on the subway side. The price of doing that was to find resources within the existing 2008 budget, stop doing some things that I was authorized to do within my budget, and to fund these service increases. And so that's what these will cost on an annual basis. $8.9 million, given that they are not going in until July of this year. The impact on this year's budget will be approximately half of that. Both the service changes and the offsetting savings will be included in NYCT's July 2008 financial plan, which will be presented in next month's board cycle. We are also informing the committee this month of our fall 2008 bus schedule changes. The fall schedules include 75 changes on 66 routes and include changes to bus frequency based on ridership as well as running time adjustments. Those are policy guideline increases that we're putting in the fall based on the board-approved guidelines for the bus system. On a net basis, the changes cost $4.9 million annually, which is consistent with the adopted 2008 budget.
Obviously, I am very much in favor of these service increases, and I'm particularly thrilled that you are righting a 15-year wrong with this proposal, which is providing overnight service to the residents of the Upper Lenox Avenue line who have not had it since the Lenox invert job was completed and they were promised their line back. Clearly, riders are going to be happy that they won't be pushed in and crunched as much as they have been. I think you've targeted the right lines. I might have added some on the E and the F, but I understand there's constraints. Those lines are also bursting at the seams. This should also somewhat help alleviate the on-time performance as people aren't holding doors and crushing in and what have you. That is provided we get the schedules coordinated and running everything right. But I'm very happy to see this. There were a couple of other rapid transit proposals in the original package of service enhancements that are not in these. I would hope that we could move to those at some point, but I understand the restraints you're under, so I congratulate you on this package.
Thank you.
Mr. Kay.
This action actually raises great concerns for me. And so forgive me for going back a little bit in revisionist history here, because I feel like with this package of service enhancements, whether it should have been in or should not, was in. And this is a great example of us, frankly, playing rope-a-dope with the public. It's in, it's not in, it's in, it's not in. Just a little bit of history, which wasn't that long ago, is in December, when this was first proposed to the board. And before I go, let me just state for the record here, clearly, I want as many service improvements as we possibly can. I trust that these are the right things to do if we can do that and if we can afford them, and I hope that they can go forward at some point. But with that said, back in December, when we were debating a budget for this year, we talked about hitting the strap hanger for fare increases, and we did that, and we voted in favor of that. And we said at the time, you know, we should not move forward with the service enhancements yet, because we should find out if we actually have the money. Because we think the following year we're going to be okay, but we're not sure. A couple of times we said we were going to go forward, then we put it off. We didn't put it off. We did. I'm not even sure where we stand, because it seems like now the transit is moving forward with $9 million of these enhancements without any board discussion or approval or action. And I guess apparently you found a way to do that. So this concerns me because the question was, do we have the financial resources to do that? And it concerns me because if we put this in, is 6 months from now we're going to have to take it away. And from all the messages that we keep getting and we keep seeing either in discussions with the MTA or publicly with the MTA, that we're going to be in a position to do that, is we're going to put something in and we're going to be forced to take it back. Number two, we talked early on about many of the problems we're seeing in the subway system, and I hope that some of these changes will improve that, but I don't know if that's the case. I don't know, you haven't exactly outlined yet how you're going to attack each one of those, and presumably they may cost money. I don't know. You said that they didn't, but here we're saying that this will actually help it, so that did cost money. And then third, I'm looking at the budget, and we see we're already $27 million to the bad just within transit. And this is $9 million more to that, which you said you're able to cover. And you've outlined maybe 3 or 4 general things of what you can do. But I don't know, you could have done that to cover the $27 million. Then on top of that, MTA headquarters and the MTA is saying publicly that we may be forced in a position in just 5 months, and possibly next month, we're going to see a budget that shows major service cuts, I assume, I don't know, we'll see, possibly major service cuts and or fare hikes and or hoping Albany bails us out. Now, I'm all for Albany bailing us out. And all these little changes is not going to solve our upcoming problem. But all these changes add up. And I'm a bit concerned that we're going to move forward on expanding service when our subway service now is not performing up to the levels you want it to perform. And two, we have some seriously financial problems and financial questions that this board said we voted not to move forward with these service enhancements until we knew we had the money to do it. Because this is the rope-a-dope. This is, we're going to give it to you, and now we're not. And I am extremely uncomfortable that you're coming here today saying you found a way to go around the board because of standard guidelines to move this forward. And look, you have the ability to do that. You've said you were going to do that. It raises great concerns. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but this should be talked about. This should be talked about in the context of the budget, in the context of how subways are doing and how it's going to improve the subway problems that you stated we have. And I think this is something the board should look at and the board should discuss and stop playing this game to the press and to the public about whether we're going forward or not. I know that sounds harsh, and I want as many – look, I spent a year and a half working in the city in my current job finding ways to expand service. That's what we should do, is expand service. But we need to make sure we have the money to do it, because we can't expand it one day and cut it the next. And I fear that's what we're going to do in this situation.
Yeah, my mistake, okay, was to allow things that were clearly policy guideline adjustments to go in the service enhancement package, and I will take full blame for that. I should not have agreed to that in the first place, and at the time, It seemed like the expedient thing to do, and so that's what I did. In terms of paying for this, we set up on car quality control an attempt to begin to put out trains that literally were perfect, just as 20 years ago we put out buses that were perfect. No graffiti, no scratchiti, no body damage, no nothing. And we did that. That was part of the policy initiative package that was presented to this board and approved by this board. Now, what we've discovered we have that program for a limited number of cars on the 1 line and the L line. And what we discovered is that we can sustain those cars with 17 fewer positions. So those 17 positions are coming out of my budget. This is not a, I'll cover it, trust me thing. These are real cuts. We also, and set up as part of the policy initiatives, we were cleaning cars at both ends of the line. And we've had a very significant increase in car cleanliness as a result. Again, what we have decided is we can continue that program by cutting 29 positions out. And that is a real cut. It is not, trust me, I'm going to do anything else. We're cutting 30 positions out on lunch relief in the stations department. That is real. And we're cutting 14 positions out of Steve Files' staff, senior staff, and that is real. In terms of if we go back, and I don't consider it rope-a-dope or anything else, I consider that our job is to run whatever service we run, and it's your decision what we run, but to run whatever we run as well as possibly we can run it. And yeah, we're not doing very well on-time performance. Mean distance between failure is slipping. On the mean distance between failure, though, keep in mind that the slips that we're talking about still put us about 30% above what anybody else in this country runs service. So, I am sorry that anybody has the opinion that I am, trying to find ways to run around this board or this committee. Absolutely no intention of doing that. On the other hand, you and I have a responsibility to the citizens of New York. And in terms of budgets are budgets, but priorities are priorities. And if I am spending money for other things than making these improvements in service, then I'm not doing my job.
I have absolutely no problem with you making decisions on priorities. If you said that you can find the money, and I trust that whatever you propose to fund this is real and you will find it, and you will hold everyone's feet to the fire to do that. But what I haven't seen is how you're going to cover the $27 million that were already in the negative. And you've talked a little bit about, not in as much detail as you just outlined for these. As I said, I want these to happen. I want you to be able to outline and say, I can fund these. I can fund these $9 million, and I can fund the $27 million I'm already short this year. If you tell us that, I feel much more comfortable about that for this year. But that's this year. Next year, you can't sustain it. Because if you can sustain it, look, I hope we can sustain it. I want you to sustain it, but can we? We're not going to get the revenues coming in from all the real estate transactions that actually fund your budget. We don't have a budget for next year. So we might be able to get by this year, but can we get by next year? And what are we going to cut, service enhancement-wise, come next year? So that's where my concern. I'm not questioning your ability to set priorities. If you can do it, that's great. I'm just asking if you can outline exactly what we're going to do. You've done that in funding these, but not the $27 million we've already missed. Yeah. And I don't want to continue beating this, but this raises concerns because I don't know what's going to happen next month when we see the financial plan for next year.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I will tell you in turn. I don't know about next year either. But when we look at the expense budget as we are formulating the 2009 budget that you're about to see here very, very shortly, we are not doing one-offs in terms of the cuts. These are cuts that will continue on and flow through. And then I will tell you right here and now, and these people lined up here, They will make their numbers. I will make my numbers. And if I don't make my numbers, then I will find cuts elsewhere in the organization in order to do that. Just as I told you last year, I intend eventually to find enough money within my existing budget to fund the policy initiatives, not just on the 7 and the L line, but across the system as a whole. And if I don't do that, I'd be very, very happy to be held fully accountable.
Well, I appreciate that, and I trust that you will do that, and I think that's the type of things that we need to hear from the MTA and the leadership, that we're going to meet our numbers, and you're going to find any cut that you can find in your agency to deal not only with the service needs that we need in the system, which clearly you're doing, but also how we're going to deal with the upcoming problem. Because we can't just sit back and say we need money and someone's got to give it to us, because if they don't, we're going to do fares or cut service. So I appreciate that. I am very happy to hear that you're going to make it clear you're going to be held to your numbers and that you're going to be able to stay on budget, because I think that's the type of things we need to hear from people in the MTA to make sure, look, we have a crisis coming, and we have a financial crisis both on the capital side and the financial side. And the more people hear that, the more the public hears that, the better off we're all going to be. So I appreciate that, and I look forward to seeing that. Thank you.
Mr. Mack.
Yeah, Howard and Joe Smith. I just came from a trip on the West Coast, and it's evident that every transit system is going to be overburdened by the increase of usage due to the fact of the fuel costs. Now, in L.A., they're up 6% on usage and growing. And I got to say that we're going to be faced with the same thing. And it concerns me. I love what Jeff said, but hopefully these employee reductions are not going to hurt our possibility to expand what we have to service the growing needs of the riding public in the bus line and in the subway. And I'm concerned, regardless of what Jeff said, and I respect what he said, but if you can do it, that's great. And if it works, it's great, but not on the backs of the transit riders.
Any other questions or comments?
Lastly, Section 8 of the agenda includes our regular status report on the AFC program and the new monthly operations report on the 7 and the L service for the committee's information.
Final questions? Then we'll move on to the MTA bus portion of this agenda. Mr. Smith?
Good morning, Madam Chairman and members of the Bus Committee. I would ask that members of the Bus Committee approve the minutes of the prior meeting held on May 22nd.
Those in favor? Any opposed?
I'd like to turn your attention to the status of operations report. On May 7th, we began our efforts to integrate the operations of the 3 MTA bus organizations. A regional bus merger team consisting of managers from all 3 agencies was created to review all depot transportation, maintenance, facility, and administrative operations to establish uniformity and use of best practices. This team has already begun its evaluation process at 2 bus depots. In addition, a senior-level management team was named to lead the various functional areas within the combined organizational structure. Regarding our fleet, April's MDBF exceeded 5,000 miles. It's an increase in 39% over April 07 numbers. In facilities, we continue to make major gains in areas and facilities improvements for our employees, as well as addressing numerous environmental concerns related to air compliance, soil remediation, and asbestos abatement. The next section of the committee report presents our ridership data and financial statement for the month of April, and it includes our monthly performance indicators and presents the average daily ridership that's starting on page 7. For April 2008 compared to April 2007, April 2008 average ridership for weekdays increased by 15.2%, Saturday up 10.5%, and Sundays are up 21.5%. Overall, in comparing ridership for the first 4 months of 2008 against the same period in 2007, weekday ridership is up 13.6%, Saturday 14.1%, and Sundays are up 17.4%. We have no procurement items this month. We have 2 bus service changes provided as information to the bus committee. The 2 changes are: the first service change represents an extension of the southern terminus of the Q45 route by 1.4 miles to Glendale. This change would improve passenger access to a major commercial shopping center and provide customers with additional connection to buses and subways. The second service change allows for a discontinuation of the Q22A, which is a part-time route in Queens. This route is extremely lightly used, part-time branch of the Q22 route. It operates as a school trip, operates 1 school trip in the morning and 1 in the afternoon, and it carries approximately 14 people a day. Discontinuation of this route would allow us to reallocate resources to other routes that are getting hit pretty heavy right now. This concludes my remarks on the committee's agenda. Any questions?
Mr. Albert?
Yeah, this Q45 Southern Extension is another example, and I love to see MTA buses route extensions because some of these are so logical that they should have been done a long time ago. Obviously, the shops at Atlas Park hasn't been there forever, but I think that's a great idea, and you know, it's similar to the Junction Boulevard bus being extended to LaGuardia and other buses being extended to the hub in Jamaica. On the Q22A, how far in advance do you put out discontinuance notices? You put it on every stop, I take it?
And we sent notices to the school in the last month, 2 months
And every
ago.
stop?
Yeah. Just to let everyone know. It's maybe 7 people in one way in the morning and the same amount in the afternoon.
Yeah. Now, when you say you're going to reallocate those resources, are you going to do that on the Rockaway Peninsula, or is this going to go system-wide?
I think we really got to look, Andrew, because the ridership is changing in certain areas, even though we've had some double-digit growth, and we continue through May to have double-digit growth in some routes. We have to really look and see where we're really hurting the most.
Mr. LeBeau?
I noticed that despite increased ridership, you kept the head count to only 8 over budget, which in the MTA family probably gives you a gold medal. But you were doing very well up and down every single line except for bus drivers, in which you were 42 over, which you describe as insufficient attrition. What does that mean? Does that mean everybody loves working for you, that they're not quitting?
What it means is we are currently still in negotiations with the MTA bus contract, and we expect when that contract is ratified that people are going to retire. So those that are over, and plus in the summer, our ridership patterns change in the summer. More people go on vacation. So we expect those numbers to change as when the contract is approved and when ridership changes through the summer.
I see, because the reduction and keeping your feet to the fire on headcount is very important for the bottom line. I know you like to have an unlimited budget, but we'd like to hold you to the budget as much as we can, and that's a key element to watch.
And we're also, the regional bus company is doing some tremendous things. We, in the last 2 years, we have recycled buses that we're scrapping that are no longer being used. We've saved over 20,000 gallons of diesel fuel that we've reused and put it into our tanks across the system. We're using windows. Bus windows are around $900 a window. We're taking windows off a bus when we're junking them, and we're going to reuse them, put them back in our storerooms. That saves us a lot of money across the board. And you're only going to get so much for the bus as it is. So you might as well, if the part is reusable and the part is good, you might as well, that's part of what Howard was saying before, take that part, put it back in the storeroom, and reuse it, instead of going and buying a new window. And that's just a tip of the iceberg. With the, by using New York City Transit's technical area, we're able to roll out a different tune-up procedure. We're able to change the software in the new buses, the hybrid acceleration software, so we get our fuel economy is improved. We use almost 58 million gallons of diesel fuel a year. So every little bit we can do to save across the whole MTA family saves us all at the end of the day.
Yeah, Mark Prage will be proud of you, especially since every new bus costs more than $550,000.
Oh,
So the more you can save out of those, the better it is.
Yeah.
And you should see how funny those oblong windows look when put into a square slab.
Other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Motion to go into executive session, please. For the purpose of labor negotiation.
Right.
I have to say that. For the purpose of labor negotiation.